Hi guys, Kim here, design team member with Swirlydoos Kit Club. I've got an altered art journal cover for you today. My inside pages are watercolored, but we're just going to do the cover today. I've prepped it a little bit with some double-sided tape already, and I've already cut the piece of canvas, and I've done some clear gesso on the canvas already as well. Uh, and I've already cut it to size just to cut down on some time here, but you can see it was a 12 by 12 piece. So we're going to get started pulling off some double-sided tape here. Uh, that's going to hold it down pretty tight, and we're going to attach the canvas, like I said, with the double-sided tape. Make sure it's even on all edges. Going to smooth that out. We don't want any ripples or anything. And once we've got that all down and all smoothed out, just going to trim the edges a little bit wherever it's necessary. Burned it a little bit when I was drying the clear gesso. And then we're just going to punch out the holes with the crocodile there. And from there, we're going to go ahead and start decorating this. Just want to brush it off to make sure that you've got no dust or anything. I'm going to use some texture paste. I'm going to use some white crackle texture paste from Prima. And I'm also going to use a mask from the Crafters Workshop. And I'm just going to do some random stenciling on the background of this. Just put it on any way you want, just a little random stenciling, because most of this is going to get covered up anyway. So we're going to put that on, and then we're going to dry it, because you want to make sure that your crackles get started before you start covering any of this up, because that's the purpose of using the crackle paste. You want to get your crackles, you want your background to really stand out. So now that that's dry, we're going to go ahead and start putting some embellishments down. What I've got out are a few flowers and a couple of pieces of chipboard from Dusty Attic and some leaves and a few pieces of ribbon from Prima. And my chipboard is going to be left naked because we're going to go ahead and mist that and use some mica on it. So we're going to go ahead and start gluing that down. You just want to figure out your placement. You can kind of pre-do your placement beforehand to get an idea of how you want things. So I'm going to go ahead and start layering that. I'm going to pop up the biggest flower in the middle and start putting stuff underneath it and all around it. I'm using some 3-in-1 glue because it doesn't dry right away, so I can move some things around if I'm not sure about the placement. So I'm just getting things tucked in here and there. Getting it all figured out. All right, and then once I'm happy with my placement, as you can see here, I really like the way that this turned out. It's all golds and bronzy colored. It's time to go ahead and start coloring it. I'm using some mist that I made with some gold mica powder and some mists that are made with some primary elements. I think that one is the burnt umber and also some greens. So this is just going to be pretty much almost like a monochromatic gold and bronze, and I'm also using some iridescent gold mica powder as well. That's the gold opal. It's one of the newer ones, and I like the new containers because they've got the shaker top to them, and so you can just go ahead and shake that on instead of having to use your brush, and you can cover it. And that's just a spray bottle with some water in it to go ahead and activate the mica powder. And what I'm first going to do is I'm going to go over my chipboard and some of my flowers with some just regular gesso, kind of priming that chipboard to pick up the colors from the mist and from the mica. So I'm just going to use a little sponge and make sure that I completely cover my chipboard pieces. And then I'm just going to cover the flowers and some of the ribbon a little bit as well. And going to go ahead and get that all dried before we start adding color to this. And I'm going to add the color in layers. So I'm going to do some color and dry it and do some color. So now that's the chipboard with the gesso on it, and some of the flowers have been gessoed as well. So now I'm going to start with the iridescent gold mica powder. Like I said, it's got that shaker top on there, so I'm just going to go ahead and just shake some on there. I really like the shaker top on these. So now that I've got that on there, I'm going to activate it with just some mists of water. And because I use some clear gesso on my canvas before I put it on, it's not going to soak into the canvas. It's going to give me some time to let that run and get some good drips on it. And I'm going to add a little bit more water, and then we're going to dry that. And then I'm going to go through and add some more color to it after this is dry. I'm going to go ahead with the gold. I really love the gold mica powder. This was from the first release of the mica powders. And just mix it with some water to make my own mist, and just randomly spraying all over. And that color's not settling in. I'm going to dry that. Like I said, I'm just going to do the colors in layers. Now that that's dry, my next color is going to be one of the primary elements, and I like using the micas and the primary elements because these colors don't run together, so you don't get that muddled color. You can see one color and you can see the other color. They just don't bleed together. And so I'm randomly adding some more color here and there. And once you get a good balance, you'll know how you like it. Then you'll know when it's enough. I'm adding a little bit of green, so it just gives it a little more balance to it. As you can see, some of the gesso still stands out, which is fine. I have no problem with that. Now I'm adding some micro beads and copper, and I'm using the 3D gloss gel to add my micro beads. I'm just taking a little brush, sticking it in the gloss gel, and then sticking it in the micro beads, and then just randomly brushing them over the chipboard and the flowers, and just kind of doing some placement here and there. Just trying to fill in some little spots here and there and giving some more dimension to some of my flowers. So I put some in the center of the flowers, and then I brushed some on that peacock chipboard. I love that peacock chipboard from Dusty Attic. It's really a fun piece. So just some micro beads. And now I'm taking some gesso mixed with water. It's a 50-50 mixture, and just doing some splashing all over it. And then we're just going to dry this. You don't want to dry it too close because you've got that 3D gloss gel. You don't want that to bubble, but you don't have to worry about it. Once it's dry, it'll dry clear. That's another reason I like using the 3D gloss gel, that it dries clear. And now what I'm using is black oil pastel by Prima, and I'm just going around the edges. Instead of using chalk, I'm just using that black oil pastel, going around the edges, and I'm using my finger just to blend it in. Gives it kind of a softness on the edge, kind of finishing it off. I like it, the look of it, a little bit better than ink. Kind of blends a little bit easier. So we're just going to go around the edges with that. And it gives it a nice contrast, a little bit contrast with all the golds and the greens that I have going on there. So you don't do too much, just a little bit of a line. A little bit goes a long way with your oil pastels. And it just kind of blends in with that text on the background as well. And so we're almost done with this. This was like a quick little project. And most of these items that I have can be found in the Swirlydoos store. And some of the items have come from previous Swirlydoo kits that I've had pieces left over with, especially some of the mixed media stuff that's come from Swirlydoos kits. And you can find Swirlydoos at www.swirlydoos.com. It's a